Hello and welcome, guys, to another episode of Duel School, episode 5, I do believe, where we're going to be going over the legendary major update, version 4.0. Here we go. Let's just get into it. There's a lot to go over, so kind of just want to start off in the shop right now and go over some of the new figures that are available in the game right now, just so that way we can kind of collect some thoughts, some opinions on what you guys think are special, and what I think is special about this game in particular. So without further ado, let's get into the Mega Pokemon here. We have Mega Charizard X. So taking a look at him, it says that when this Pokemon appears as a Mega Evolution, remove the frozen condition from all of your Pokemon. Pokemon knocked out by the attacks of this Pokemon are temporarily removed from the duel, returning to the bench 7 turns later. So pretty interesting right there. And then on top of that, your fire type Pokemon deal plus 10 damage and your dragon type Pokemon deal plus 10 damage. Meaning I think that Reshiram gets a 20 damage boost considering that it shares both fire and dragon typings. Pretty freaking insane, as if Reshiram wasn't somewhat broken enough. But yeah, anyway, let's move on here. It has a miss size of 8 for one of them, and its attack Bright Flame takes up 56% of the wheel, doing 50 damage times every time it lands on Bright Flame as well. And it also says that, note that all adjacent Pokemon become burned. So that would include your own, so probably be careful as far as where you are putting Mega Charizard X, because then you can really start damaging your own Pokemon. And then there has a miss size of 4, which can get eliminated, of course, once you actually end up evolving it to level 5, and of course beyond to level 10 with Carmenite, of course. Anyway, we do have Backdraft, which is 120 very, very solid damage, saying that you move the battle opponent and opposing Pokemon adjacent to the battle opponent to their PC, pretty much clearing up your space. Since this guy can only move 1 MP at a time, it kind of makes sense as to why Backdraft can be so powerful. If you happen to Pokemon switch in Charizard X and you're able to clear out your opponent's goal area, that'd be, very great as well. Anyway, let's move on to Mega Charizard Y, another big beast in the game right now, obviously. With its ability Blue Sky's Captor, this Pokemon can use an MP move to fly over Pokemon on the field that don't have Soar. So pretty cool. It has 2 MP as well, so really nice. Move opposing Pokemon surrounded by this Pokemon to your PC. Wow. And then your fire type Pokemon deal plus 10 damage and flying type Pokemon deal plus damage. So pretty much either if you're running Mega Charizard X or Y, whatever shares its typing are going to get a damage boost, obviously. So that's really tight. Considering that means Talonflame and Fletchling, all of that evolutionary line gets plus 20 in that regard. So pretty freaking cool how that works out. Anyway, it has the same size miss of 8 and 4. Bright Flame does the same thing. So that's something to keep in mind. But then it has the 3-star purple attack Flashover, which says that the battle opponent and opposing Pokemon adjacent to it become burned. Great. But then those Pokemon also gain weight 3. So a really cool way to just take care of your opponents that way. Mega Beedrill is a Pokemon I am enjoying the look of. I think it has serious potential, though I think it does have a couple downsides, but we'll get into that right now. Its ability is Poisoning Order. While this Pokemon is on the field, the misses of your Beedrill become the battle opponent becomes noxious. Your Bug-type Pokemon also deal plus 10 damage, and your Poison-type Pokemon deal plus damage. So that's something else you can really keep in mind and start promoting, very much so. So that's really cool. Those big old Beedrills that you have now become even more powerful because instead of missing, you're just making your opponents more noxious, which is great. It's also still a 3-star runner, or a 3-move runner, so that's great. Twin Needle does 40 damage times up to 2, which is cool. But if this Pokemon is knocked out, the battle opponent becomes poisoned. That's great, but I would have expected from a Mega-type Pokemon to be receiving, something higher than 80. However, I would just wonder then, since it has the ability Poisoning Order, and it promotes Bug and Poison types, does that mean that Mega Beedrill itself gets plus 20 damage as well, since it constitutes both bug and poison typing. I don't have a Mega Beedrill in my possession yet, so if you guys happen to know, please let me know. That would be great. I love the insight. Has a miss size of 4, so again, total of up to 12% in the wheel, just like Mega Charizard, X and Y included. Poison Shock is only a 1-star purple, which I think is a downside, but it does have a nice effect saying that if the battle opponent is poisoned or noxious, exclude it from the duel. So that's pretty cool. You can use your smaller Beedrill to be able to take care of that for you. And on top of that, if it is not poisoned or noxious, the battle opponent becomes poisoned. So, and if you poison or noxious them, you exclude them from the duel, or if they are already. So that's really cool. With a full team of Beedrill on your team, you can get some really cool stuff done, especially if you start poisoning or use noxious. This could be coupled really well with, I imagine, Crobat. Big time. So something to keep in mind. Say if you ran 3 Beedrill and Crobat, those are 3 poison type runners, and also Crobat would get the bonus poison typing damage as well. So just something to keep in mind for you guys. I think that has really fun synergy. Moving on, we have Avalugg here. Once my app wants to load, it seems to be having some trouble right now. Come on, baby. There we go. Anyway, Avalugg, it says before using this Pokemon, you can switch its opponent with an adjacent Ice-type Pokemon or Frozen Pokemon. And then your Ice-type Pokemon can move over this Pokemon when using an MP move. So even though it might be blocking your entry point, it doesn't necessarily matter right now with that final ability as well. And then moving on, it has a gigantic dodge, but we'll get into that. It has Hyper Beam, of course, which is great. 120 damage, though, of course. The next turn will always be the other players, so something to keep in mind. Ice Fang is cool, 70 damage, and if this Pokemon is knocked out, battle opponent becomes frozen. 70, since it's not the highest damaging, it looks like you're going to be freezing some Pokemon. Miss size is 4, and miss size is 4, so that means you can knock out at least one of them by the time you get to level 5. And of course, that dodge size is up to 40. That is insane. I cannot believe that. That's really cool. That's way better than Mew in a way. Unfortunately, it's not a shuttle flip, but Avalugg isn't really the fastest Pokemon anyway. Still something really cool, I think. Let's move on, though. We have Pangoro, which I think is pretty interesting. Has its ability Mold Breaker, and says that this Pokemon negates abilities that boost or lower attack damage for your opponent. So just as an example, I run a Fairy round deck, which has 3 Sylveon, and sometimes I'll throw on a Wigglytuff for extra damage as well, because they get 30 damage times the number of Pokemon on the team that have round, or on the field that have round. So with Pangoro Mold Breaker, it kind of negates that, I would imagine, along with any other boosts, of course. Hammer Arm does 90, pretty darn solid, and this Pokemon gains weight. Unfortunate, but I mean, you're getting 90, and it's a pretty decent size of 32. Ice Punch, if it's knocked out, battle opponent becomes frozen, so it could have some synergy with Avalugg potentially. And then Parting Shot is pretty neat, saying that this Pokemon may switch with a Pokemon on your bench. The battle opponent now has weight. Miss size is 12, but you can knock that down to at least 8 by the time you reach level 5, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Really cool. I understand that I might be going fast or slow for some of you. For those of you that don't understand really what I'm talking about or how this game works, let me know in the comment section. I'd be happy to talk about it. We can have more of a crash course type of video, which will kind of more help you easily get into the game, of course. I'd be happy to make something like that. More of a tutorial, I guess you could say. But the game does a pretty good job of that itself. If you just download it in the Play Store or iOS Store, I'd highly recommend it. Anyway, moving on to Bergmite, which I think is a really fun idea to run in like an Avalugg Bergmite deck. Anyway, let's move on. Ice Scrambles its ability, saying that before using this Pokemon, you may move this Pokemon on the bench next to one of your Avalugg on the field. If you do, this Pokemon's MP is 1. So it slows it down quite a bit. But then frozen Pokemon next to this Pokemon cannot be tagged. So if you start freezing your opponents, they can't be tagged, which means you can just start knocking them out really easily, or just straight up leaving them alone and working your way towards your opponent. Or if they're on your side of the field, you could just leave them alone and let them block the way of your opponent potentially. So kind of neat. Let's see, a miss size of 12, double edge. This Pokemon and the battle opponent are knocked out, 2 stars, so it gets a little bit of priority there. Bite is 50, very small. Ice Fang, you do freeze your opponent once this Pokemon's knocked out, so you have a chance of really screwing up your opponent. It might be a slow deck to run, but something with good potential, I think, with some fun for sure. Pancham, probably my top 3 favorite Pokemon in this update right now. I can't believe this Pokemon. Anyway, and this is where a major topic of discussion I want to be is, has its ability Arm Thrust Evolution, stating if this Pokemon spins Arm Thrust 3 or more times in a battle, it may evolve after the battle. It is a 3-point runner, as you guys can see. It can get across the field pretty quickly. And then here we go, Arm Thrust, size 40, gigantic, as you can see on the left here. It does 30 damage times the number of times that it lands on it. So you pretty much are spinning again until you do not land an Arm Thrust. And if the number of attacks spun was 2 or more, this Pokemon cannot be knocked out. So you get to not be knocked out and automatically evolve into Pangoro after the battle. That's kind of crazy. It kind of it gives you great chances during your turn, and it might slow down your opponent and make them more hesitant to attack Pancham on their own turn. And then we have Parting Shot, a 2-star purple attack, decent priority, stating this Pokemon may switch with a Pokemon on your bench. The battle opponent now has weight. So just like Pangoro, has the same attack. However, one question I have for you guys. Do you think that you should go for Arm Thrust as far as leveling it up with Pancham? Every time you level up, should you level up Arm Thrust to make it bigger, to raise your chances even more so of being able to land on Arm Thrust each and every time, as many times as you need to, which was 2 as the minimum, which is not that bad? Or do you think you should level up Parting Shot, which is the 2-star purple attack? This is where I'm stuck, because 2-star purple has some decent priority over white attacks, of course, but of course they are negated automatically by gold attacks and by purple attacks with 3 stars or above, or they're canceled out completely with tying at a 2-star purple attack. So it's something to keep in mind. So I don't know what the better option is. Like, yeah, do I want to get Arm Thrust off? That way I can get Pangoro leveled up. I honestly feel like maybe Arm Thrust is the way to go to level that up, because when you evolve into Pangoro, Parting Shot automatically becomes a 3-star, thus giving you more priority anyway. So it could be that Arm Thrust is the attack to level up with Pancham, but then once you get to Pangoro, probably level up Parting Shot at that point as well. Just so that way you can give yourself more versatility in the game. Its miss is not a bad size either, of 8, meaning that you can knock it down to a tiny little 4 by the time it reaches level 5. So definitely something to keep in mind for sure. Let's move on to Giratina, which recently got a buff. Will-O-Wisp is only 1 star, unfortunately, just like it is for all the other Pokemon with Will-O-Wisp, unfortunately. But Shadow Claw is a huge attack with 130. Hex is neat because if the battle opponent is affected by a special condition, you deal ×2 damage. So an easy 100 damage, though it is a small piece on the board or on the wheel, only a 20 size, which you can promote a bit. So that's okay. And by the time you get to Giratina up to level 5, you only have a size of totaling up to 8, a size of 8 miss, I should say. And let's move on to its ability Shadow, stating instead of an MP move, you can move this Pokemon through an adjacent Pokemon to a spot next to that Pokemon. This turn ends. So kind of neat that you can do that. And it's any adjacent Pokemon to a spot next to that Pokemon. It doesn't have to be one on your team. It can float wherever it really wants to. Since it's kind of a ghost type, it gets to move around kind of like Banette or anything like that. So it's kind of neat, almost like its own Infiltrator to a degree. But it's kind of better than Infiltrator, I think, maybe just because Shadow isn't something that's really negated yet in the game. And then, of course, we have the biggest boy, Rayquaza, right now, which also got a monstrous buff. Of course, it has Primal Rage, stating that if your opponent has Groudon, Kyogre, or Rayquaza, it gains +1 MP, which is amazing, and then a +20 damage. So even though Extreme Speed got a boost of up to 140 damage, it can now have potentially 160 damage if your opponent runs either one of those 3 Pokemon. So pretty crazy. It has up to size 12 miss, but of course if you get it up to level 5 at least, you can start eliminating that down to 8, and then further if you want to get it to level 10 as well, of course. And then my question to you guys is, do you level up Fly or Extreme Speed? Fly is great, but extreme speed can beat anything. It can beat most white attacks, it beats any purple attack, and it can beat most every single gold attack in the game. I'm not sure if there's one that hits higher than that other than maybe Sceptile, and that's with some boosting involved anyway. And then of course there's Break Energy, which is really cool, and it says that your opponent's energy plate-based effects are lost. So that's pretty freaking rad. Unfortunately, it is only a 1-point mover, which makes sense though. It's a really, really strong Pokemon. However, if you do level up Fly enough, you have the potential to move further away. And also, again, Primal Rage can give it a 1 MP boost. So that's something to keep in mind. Latios and Latios also got really cool buffs here. Fly Away, Mist Ball, and Dragon Breath are much stronger. I think Psychic is still the same amount of damage, though. Really neat, though. Hallucination means if the Pokemon's knocked out, it doesn't go to the PC. It is excluded from the duel entirely, or removed, I should say. Luster Purge on Latios got a boost in damage. Dragon Breath is stronger, I believe, though I think Psychic stayed the same at 60. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But again, with either Pokemon, you can knock out their Mist completely by leveling either Pokemon up to level 5. Druddigon also got a little bit of a boost. Mold Breaker, this Pokemon negates abilities that boost or lower attack damage for your opponent, so that's pretty neat. Revenge, I believe, does even more damage than before. I think that's correct, because Revenge now does 70 base damage, but then plus 20 for every Pokemon in your own Pokemon Center, so that means it can do up to 110 damage. That's kind of awesome in my opinion. Dragon Tail is great. Benches your battle opponent, except when an opponent has fainted. That's cool. And your battle opponent must then wait. So that's neat. Unfortunately, it only does 50 damage, though, so it can't really do that much. Lapras is really cool. I can't think of much that it got anything new for itself. I don't know if it got a buff in my memory. I don't think so. I think it's just back. I want to say it did. But anyway, Dratini is really cool as well. I love Dratini. Dragon Rage, 80 base damage. It's great. And then a 2-star purple attack. The battle opponent is moved to the bench and gains weight. That's really cool as well. And then there's Freezing Tail. If this Pokemon is knocked out, the battle opponent becomes frozen. So again, more synergy with Avalugg, Bergmite, if you want to go that route. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but Dratini is pretty much a great, fun way to get to Dragonair and Dragonite as well. So just something to keep in mind. I just cannot believe all the new Pokemon in the game right now, though. They are completely ridiculous. Please let me know which Pokemon you're looking forward to using, because here are some more Pokemon that we have back in the game with the special 10-pack boosters as well. We have Suicune back, the mythical birds as well. Mew is insane to have back as well. I hope I pull a Mew in the future. That way I can start chain leveling mine even further, because I think Mew is still one of the strongest Pokemon in the game. Even though Rayquaza is back with a huge vengeance, Rayquaza can't easily knock out Mew. It has only one attack, I believe, that can actually hit over it. So that's kind of neat. And anyway, guys, though, thank you so much for watching this episode of Duel School. If you want to learn more or hear me talk more about this latest version 4.0 major update, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, be on the lookout for the next episode coming up. Thank you so much for watching. Later!